Hello. My oh my, how things have changed since the last time I did one of these. Remember, I came on here, I was all mad, I was all yelly. They just lost to Chicago and gave up 3 goals to, I don't even, it was bad. Well, let's not remember, let's not think about that. We're not going to think about that. We're going to think about what's happening now. They won 4 straight. I'm not over the top excited about the 4 straight, but pretty dominant against St. Louis for a good portion of it. Obviously dominant tonight against San Jose. Um, the Winnipeg one, I'm not gonna, I'm not. That one is what it is. Nonetheless, it's pretty. Yes, that's right. I did say ridiculous a lot in the last one. We'll see if we can stick away from that today. I mean, just to start, like the Golden Knights Sharks rivalry or whatever you want to call it, it's not a rivalry. Is I mean, it's beyond belief. Like the numbers are just out of control. Like it is wild how dominant the Golden Knights have been in the regular season over the Sharks. And again, like today, 7-2 again. Second time they've scored 7 goals this season. They're both against the Sharks. It's the third time or it's the fourth time in the last 2 years outside of opening night. So 2 years in one game. If you subtract the one game, they scored 8 against Colorado. They've only scored 7 2 other times, and one of them was San Jose. So 3 of the last 4 times they've scored 7 has been San Jose. That power play stat is unreal. That the Sharks are now under 5% on the power play net percent. Golden Knights have had 8 shorthanded goals against them. It's a combination of the Golden Knights get on the ice and they believe that they can do no wrong, and they typically cannot. And then San Jose plays the game as if there's 7 or 8 Golden Knights players on the ice at all times. And it's been this way for years. I mean, I guess first game this year wasn't as bad or didn't look quite like that as much. But for the most part, it's like Vegas forechecks them to death. Vegas wins every stick battle. Vegas wins every race. Vegas never gets hemmed in their own end. They never have hard times with forechecking going the other way. They're always really good through the neutral zone. They don't make a ton of mistakes. Even if they take penalties, they kill them all. When they get power plays, they score almost every single time. Empty net always in the it's really on a level that's like almost incredible in the NHL. And it's like you watch these games and it like it's like I say it's like hard to believe, but it's not, because we've seen it so many times. I guess what's surprising is like you would have expected at some point, because the Sharks are improving. They look like a better team. They are starting to get better. They do not when they play the Golden Knights. And I'm aware, like anybody who watches only Golden Knights games will watch them and think, I don't understand how this team has 23 wins this year. And quite frankly, I completely understand it. Nonetheless, like to see it happen over and over and over again, it can almost be jarring that it's this easy for the Golden Knights to do this against this team, and they're competitive. They've beat Dallas. They've been right there. I think they may have even beat Colorado in overtime. I'm pretty sure they beat so who else? I can't remember. They had another good win recently. Like San Jose's not a terrible team this year, and yet here we are watching this. The bigger picture, or at least the slightly bigger picture. We'll get to the massively bigger picture after that, because I asked her a bunch of questions and a lot of them came in, and I'll read some of those off and answer some of those. Is now 4 wins in a row, which is great in the fact that what it looked like was not good. And it was not necessarily great teams that they were losing to. They lost to Chicago. They lost to St. Louis. There were some other ones in there that weren't particularly good. And, it was like, what 1 win in 9 games, the only win being another Sharks game. It looked pretty bad, and it was getting quite concerning that it's like, when or if is this going to turn around? It has now, to a degree, turned around, and Rich is spot on in saying that it is quite big bum slaying. Like Winnipeg had lost 9 straight at the time. Columbus is kind of a mess and heading in the wrong direction and not just kind of floundering in towards the bottom of the league. St. Louis is terrible. I was looking at their cap yesterday. Like, they're not good at anything. I guess once Broberg went out, it gets a little worse. Like, I guess they can be okay at having good defensemen on the roster. They aren't a good defensive team. Their forward group has no bite to it. Like, St. Louis is just bad. I don't know how the Golden Knights lost to them there on Dad's trip. I'm still trying to figure that one out. But that's just a bad team. And the Golden Knights really kind of stuck it to them. Like, cheap goal that should have never happened in the first place. And then they smoked them the rest of the game and then gave them a cheapy power play goal, which was a dumb penalty to take, followed by a bad turnover. Either way, Golden Knights were pretty dominant in that game. And then, of course, today, the dominance is there. I normally I'm gonna say, like, results against bad teams, you got to be a little bit careful. I do think we need to have a little bit of that in the back of the mind that says, like, okay, well, what's it going to look like against teams you actually may see in the playoffs? And San Jose notwithstanding, because if it's San Jose in the playoffs, it's a 4-game sweep and we move on to the second round, fantastic. If that's how it can happen, great. I don't see any other way that that's going to happen. Like, that's what's going to happen there. So that they're just a different animal when it comes to playing Vegas, whether they're in the playoffs or not. I do think, though, the fact that it's been kind of lopsided definitely is an indicator of more than just beating up on bad teams. The fact that most of these games, it's been very difficult for the other team to generate much of any offense, if any at all. It's been penalty kill has been pretty good for the most part. Power plays continuing to get the job done. And they're really starting to push the game at even strength. You're seeing the game just head the right direction over and over and over again. And the second periods have been much better, which is a place that you see when when you're really heading in the right direction, second periods are good. So that's certainly a positive as well. So I'm not quite on these are bad opponents. This doesn't mean all that much. I'm not quite there as I normally would be certainly at this time of the year. I think I'm much more in the optimistic category of saying, well, I think we are starting to see more and more stretches of good hockey. Now, I do need to see that step of, okay, now what does it look like against teams playing well? And I guess San Jose's playing well recently, but again, they don't really count when they play the Golden Knights because they don't look anything like an NHL team when they play the Golden Knights. And the Golden Knights look like multi-time Stanley Cup dynasty every time they play San Jose. So I don't want to go overboard on that. But it is definitely encouraging that you're starting to see the star players are scoring a bunch more. They've found a way to kind of utilize Marner in a way where he is kind of driving a line by himself, and that's as a center. And I'll get into that a little bit as well. I'm probably going to write about that tomorrow, too. Depth is starting to come through. The defense is being a lot more consistent in their own end. Goaltending has been all right when it's been fine. It's not costing them games as it was a little while back. So that's a positive. Everything seems to be kind of headed in the right direction. Now, let's zoom out a little bit more, because winning games in the middle or early January, or being in first place in the worst division in the league, or whatever, all of it, like, we can take different pieces of it and be excited or be disappointed or be frustrated or be optimistic or whatever for all of the different pieces. But the fact of the matter is, there is one goal for this team, and that is, can they win the Stanley Cup? Can they put themselves in a position to be the best team in the NHL and win 16 games in April, May, and June? That's what we're really looking at. So that's where, and the good news is, most of the questions that I got kind of walk down that path, as opposed to worrying about who's in what line in the middle of January and all of that. So let's just get to some of them. What record / level of play does Vegas need to have before the Olympics for you to think they're a real contender? By the way, I'm going to be like holding my phone so that that when I look over there or down or whatever, that's what's happening. And then that's kind of similar to the question of, have you changed your mind on whether or not you can add to this roster? And they've played noticeably better during the Jets game. Hadn't they continued their dominant play against 3 bad teams? Does that qualify as lighting the fire? So they're kind of all 3 similar questions. So I would say, first off, like, until there's more wins than losses, I still think it's difficult to consider them a cup contender. I think then beyond that, there has to be a number of wins against good teams. It's not a giant number. Like, I'm not sitting here telling you they've got to win 7 games against the best 5 teams in the NHL from here on out. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is I want to see more competition in those games. Don't get blown out by Edmonton. Don't get blown out by Minnesota. Don't get and like the Golden Knights played a pretty good game in that game, but there was 100 shot attempts against for Colorado. Like, I want to see this, or at least like bring this style of play, and then the other team's going to play a lot better than these teams have in the last 4 games, to the teams that are much better, to the teams that are actually going to be the ones that you're going to have to beat when we get to the games that matter for real in the postseason. Like, that's where I'm at. So, like, what is the level of play? I do think like a simple answer is they've got to have more wins than losses. Like, if they go into the playoffs with more losses than wins, like, they're not a real cup contender, and they're probably not going to win the Stanley Cup, and we're going to have to just deal with that. That's one. Like, level of play needs to look like this against bad teams, and it's not every night. Like, we have to be aware that like 82 nights travel, back-to-backs, all of that. It comes into play. There's no question about that. So we have to be aware of that. But you want to see this most of the time against the bad teams. You want to see close games that you're finding a way more often than not, or at least playing good hockey for good stretches against these teams. I know it's hockey. There's bad bounces. There's goofy things that happen. There's injuries. There's all this. It's more of like a feel, and the feel over the past 20 games is not good enough. The feel over the past 4 certainly is, but that's such a small sample size. The feel over 43, where we're at right now, I still think we're a bit short. There's an argument. Stone didn't play a lot. Eichel didn't play a lot. Carlson hasn't played a lot. Theodore didn't play a lot. Hill hasn't played a lot. Like, I understand that, and that kind of leads into where is it? The next question. There's one about where'd it go? There was one about like health. Oh, here it is. Here it is. If VGK are elite when healthy, what do you think is keeping them from being a great team beside being healthy? And is this team 1 or 2 players short, and at what position? So I know there's a lot of deadline stuff, and we got to be careful because the deadline's still so far away. There's still many different questions. There's like this semi de facto deadline before the Olympics. I don't know whether that's going to materialize or not. We will see. I do not believe that the Golden Knights are in the truly elite category, even when fully healthy. I do believe that when the Golden Knights are fully healthy and playing the way that I think they can, which that's an on paper thing, that's what we expect. That's we haven't seen it. So we just assume that's what it is. So understand that you have to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt, but I believe they're probably the 2nd or 3rd best team in the West, and probably like the 4th or 5th best team in the NHL. That team can win the cup. No question about it. Right matchups, right things fall, wrong team misses here. Like, yes, that's good enough. Do they get to that health? I don't know. Which brings me to another question, which is, if Marner at center goes well, do the Golden Knights consider moving Carlson? So I've been trying to get more and more information on Carlson. I still don't even know what the actual injury is. But, and I plan on tweeting something out to really make it official and put it out there of the information that I've had, but I'll share a little bit more of it now. I've shared some of it on Discord. Whatever. It's not looking good for William Carlson this season. I don't know the exact on what happened, how we got to this point, where we're at, how we got from Cassidy saying he potentially is going to play before the Olympics to now I'm sitting here telling you I'm not like I'm pretty sure by the deadline he's probably not playing by the trade deadline, and I think him playing another game in the regular season is, I wouldn't say it's a long shot, but I would say it's definitely an underdog. So modeling the roster around where William Carlson's going to be probably is not wise, and I don't think they're going to do that. That does mean they will probably be allowed to use some of the LTIR money. Obviously, that changes. I do think that is one of the reasons why we've seen the extended stay for Marner at center, is because they do know that it's possible or potential that they may actually need to use that and may want to get a better look at that before they maybe make the decision. Are we going after a left winger? Are we going after a center? Are we still trying to solidify defense? Do we need a backup goalie? Do we need whatever? Like, I think they're trying to figure that out. But the word on Carlson is it is not good. Not good to the point where, like I said, it's probably an underdog that he plays again this season, and that is, I assume, through the playoffs as well. I think maybe that can happen, but again, then with how long it's been off, that we don't know. I do not know exactly what the injury is. I do not know exactly if there's a surgery coming or not. However, that has been kind of bounced around that maybe that is in the mix, that maybe they were trying to go without it and now they have to go with it, but it's starting to look like fairly unlikely there. So let's just go to trade deadline, trade stuff. Again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Until they have more wins than losses, they should not add to this roster. When you win 4 games in a row, now you're close. They're only 2 games short of it. If they win 4 games in a row again and have an 8 game, then they have 2. Now we can start talking about it. So I'm still not on board yet, but that's simply because they still have more win or losses than wins. Once they get there, there's probably 2 spots I think you'd be looking at. One is probably finding another defenseman, just if not only for depth, but also if you can move everybody down a slot, that would be beneficial. I think if Korzak can go down a slot, if Whitecloud can go down a slot, if Hutton can go down a slot, Lazan down a slot, everybody down one rung on the ladder of where they've been, you're probably in a much better place. I think you also have a little bit of depth to deal with what's potentially going to occur in the postseason, which is there's probably going to be more injuries as well. I think that's probably place number 1. The other one, and there was a question about this, and I'll read it after I say this. Left wing shooter is probably another place to look. The right wing is fairly crowded with Stone, Marner, Dorofeev, Kolazar pretty much only plays the right wing. Bowman's on the right wing. So there's a lot of guys there, and they're guys you don't necessarily want to take out. You don't really want to swap either of them over to the left. Marner's now playing a little bit of center, so that gives a little bit more flexibility. But I think a scorer, a guy who shoots, like it really is that simple, which it's like it would be nice if there's a guy who gets 4 or 5, yeah, that's probably a lot, but at least 4 or 5 shot attempts, 5, 6 shot attempts, maybe. Like a 200 shot player would be nice. And it doesn't even, like, what's interesting is I don't necessarily think we need to see a guy scoring a ton of goals right now. Like, as long as they shoot, I think you put it in this roster and in the right place, and the goals will probably go in. They just have to be that style of player. And I've said this many times, is that when you reach the NHL, it's very difficult to change the style of player you are. It's hard to change what Mitch Marner does, what Jack Eichel does, and even down the list. Like, it's hard to change the style of player most of these guys happen to be because they've gotten to this point by being the player that they are. So you want to find somebody who's made their way up to the NHL by shooting. Who exactly that is, I don't know at this point. Again, I don't really like to get into trade deadline, trade block, all of this stuff yet this early because teams can turn around on a dime. Seattle was the worst team in the league not too long ago. Now they're like pushing playoff position. Boston is awful, and then they're great. There's a bunch of teams that have been doing this. So in January, with the league as congested as it is, it's hard for me to believe that we can make a decision of where this is going to go. I do think, though, there probably still does need to be some forward-looking portion to it, I guess is how I'll say it. I don't think it makes perfect sense to buy. I don't think it's going to make much sense at all to buy a rental. It's going to be very difficult to walk into the postseason this year believing that you're the best team in the league because Colorado is going to exist. So buying a rental and throwing more chips in the center after they've thrown a bunch of chips in the center already is risky to me, where it might be better, even if it means paying a bit more to find someone with some term. And doesn't have to be the Hannafin, the Stone, they come with 8 years of term. No, it can be 2, it can be 1 extra year, whatever. But I think that's probably a better option because there's going to be some maneuvering this summer that's going to have to be figured out as well. The question was, currently Golden Knights have too many right wings. Which center do you think in the end Marner plays with long term? I think there's an argument to make that he may stay in center. I think they may see if they can get Howden to fit with him so that you have a face-off guy, but then Marner's more playing center. Howden gets to stick on the wing. Now Howden injured, disappointing with that. But that's an interesting option as well I don't think we're completely off of Marner being a center. So that's where I'm at on that. Somebody asked, what's Pavel's contract look like next year? I usually lean on comps, and I asked for comps from one of the best Twitter handles out there that does it. They have a website, AFP Analytics. Their best comp was JJ Peterka, which I think is a pretty good one. He's a little bit, I believe Peterka's younger, or maybe, I don't know, one of them's younger, so it doesn't match up perfectly, but it's a pretty good match for kind of just the production. I don't think they're similar players, but the production is a solid match. Golden Knights are going to be in an interesting spot with him. He's an RFA with ARB rights. Now, if you apply for ARB, you basically lock yourself into the Golden Knights and take away the offer sheet. I don't know that they want to do that being Pavel's agent. They should have a pretty good idea. Offer sheet's going to be expensive. So the Golden Knights would get pretty good compensation back if somebody came in and offer sheeted him, and then Vegas either has to match or let him go. So that leads that. Arbitration, if we end up there, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of money. He scored over 30 last year. He's trending towards scoring over 30 again. The position of where he is, the minute load, being on PP1, being in the top 6 most of the year, playing significant minutes, being the leading scorer on the team again. We're talking that AFP Analytics said it's in the 8 to 9 range. That seems insane to me. If he goes for a little bit of a longer deal, it might even be more. I don't know. So it's a tricky one. It's a real tricky one. And to me, watching him play, I don't see a $9 million player. I just don't. That concerns me. So where that heads is going to be really interesting, and it's a key story that we're going to have to keep following basically throughout the rest of the season. Is what is the answer going to be there? I think right now, if it's arbitration and I'm his side, we're asking for at least 9, maybe more. I don't know that you could push Mark Stone's number, but that was signed a long time ago, and the cap has gone way up. So maybe it is and usually the way arbitration goes is one side gives a number, the other side gives a number, the arbitrator cuts it down the middle. I don't think you're going to get much short of 7 if that thing goes to arbitration. So it's going to be expensive, and that's going to be a lot of the cap that the Golden Knights are going to have to eat up as we go forward. What do you think happens with the goalie situation when Hill gets back? Do you think Hill is on the trade block? The second question, absolutely not. I think there was a sliver of time there where maybe there was an argument that if Hart and Schmid can do enough and do so well that it certainly doesn't matter, that you can now look at making that move, taking that $6 million, upgrading a different position. Now, Hart did not really do all that well before he ends up getting injured. I think it's 81st out of 85 goalies in expected goals share, or expected goals above average, or whatever it is. Goals saved above expected. That's the word I'm trying to say. It's been bad in the advanced analytics. The save percentage has been bad. The goals against have been bad. I don't think he was as bad as what the numbers say, but he definitely did not come in and take the step to say that's the starter. That you don't need the starter that you had that won the cup that you signed the long-term deal for. Not important. Don't need him anymore. Hart did not do that. And now the injury complicates that even more. I don't think there's any way he plays pre-Olympics. We'll see what it looks like on the other side of the Olympics to then where we're at there. For now, I think Hill's going to be back probably soon. Wouldn't shock me if he plays Wednesday or Thursday. Wouldn't shock me if it's a little bit longer than that. We've been reporting mid to late January for a while now. We seem to be on that track. He's been practicing for a little while. Okay. What is the goalie situation? For now, it's very clearly Hill is the starter, Schmid is the backup. If we get to the point where Schmid continues around the same pace that he's been on in the backup role, Hill does the job as the starter, which is beyond what Schmid is doing, and then Hart is available. I think they will carry the three goalies because I don't think they're going to want to take the risk to send one of them down to the AHL. That should be close, if not actually on the other side of the deadline, which means there's no roster limit, which means you only have to deal with the cap. You should be able to handle an extra cap space, one extra player in minimum cap space in Schmid. So I think they'll keep all three. I think the rotation will be like a clear number one and then like a 2A, 2B. It's not quite like a 1, 2, 3. I think it's like a 2A, 2B, where it's like 60% of those starts go to Hart, and then the other 40 go to Schmid. I don't think the numbers or the play on the ice has actually done that or like made that clear. Like that's how it should go. I'm just saying, I think based on expenditure and commitment to the player, they're going to lean more towards Hart than they are Schmid. I don't believe Schmid would make it through waivers. So if they do have to put him through waivers, I think that's risky. So I would hope that they would not try to do that just in case there is another injury. You now have Hill having now missed basically half the season. We'll see how long Hart's going to be out with this one. That could be an extended injury. You've got Schmid going to the Olympics, so he may play over there. So the break isn't going to be there. So it's tricky. The whole thing is difficult. And for now, it's actually easy because now Hill's going to come back. He's going to get his starter job back. Schmid's going to be put back in the second spot. I think those are going to be like 65-35. So I think like it's going to be more than just start. If there's a back-to-back, other guy goes in. I think it'll be more than that. Schmid will get more than that. But it'll be a clear Hill's the starter. If there's time off, Hill's going to get those opportunities. Despite the recent improvement, I don't see us being, this is, I'm reading this, not me. I don't see us being competitive in a 7-game series against Colorado. Do you agree? And how should the team approach the trade deadline? Yeah, okay. Colorado's an interesting team because of the matchup with the Golden Knights. Do I believe that the Golden Knights are on the level that Colorado is on? I don't. I don't even believe they're close. We haven't seen a fully healthy Golden Knights. I don't know that we're ever going to see a fully healthy Golden Knights, but they have not even been close. That's not to say the Golden Knights have been terrible. They haven't been great, but that's not that. It's more saying Colorado's been unbelievable. They've been spectacular. So in just like the level themselves, they're not close. However, the way that Colorado plays, the way that Colorado generates offense actually does fit well into how the Golden Knights defend. Do I think the Golden Knights are favored in a 7-game series against Colorado? Absolutely not. Would I pick the Golden Knights in a 7-game series against Colorado? I would not. And that's even if it's Western Conference Final, meaning the Golden Knights have already won 8 games. I would not. If they play Colorado in the conference final, I will pick Colorado, assuming the health of the two rosters is somewhat close to what we think it's going to be. If McKinnon's not there, okay. If Makar's not there, all right. But I don't think so. That being said, I do believe the Golden Knights would win games in that series. I do believe it would be a competitive series. I think it would even be more competitive than the Edmonton series that we just saw. I thought last year's team was not a great matchup for Edmonton. I felt better about it when it started. So I may have said it was a better matchup. Now that we saw it happen, it was not a good matchup. We have seen a game against Colorado. We know how these teams like to play. I don't think it's like death to play Colorado for this team, like it is for many teams. That being said, I don't like the matchup against Minnesota. I don't like the matchup against Dallas. I still don't like the matchup against Edmonton. I'm not sure what it'll look like with where do the Kings end up? Where does Utah end up? Who else gets in Anaheim? I don't know. I don't I we've got a long way to that. I do think that this team has a chance to beat anybody. This Golden Knights team has a chance to beat anybody in the playoffs. But the way they've played through 43 games, it's hard to believe that they're going to be they're going to be able to get the better of 4 teams in a row. That seems hard to fathom at this moment, even off of 4 wins. Now, that can change in a hurry. Like if they're whatever 20-4 in the next 24 games, include these 4, so 16-4, it will change. It will change. This one I don't know about. So it says Knights management doesn't believe in this isn't our year. Like, yes and no. They always want to improve the team, but they also understand that sometimes with the way that things are lined up, that they're not going to go as all in as they have. Last year being a good example. They went mega all in the year before, going for Hannafin and Hurdle and Mantha and trying to go back to back and repeat. And they thought this was the year. Then the following year, they knew we don't have really the assets, and the team, they looked good at times. They did not look good at times. There were red flags with that team. They did not throw everything at last year's team. Riley Smith was the biggest acquisition at the deadline. That's not throwing everything at it. I think there's an argument that they may look at this year and say, let's increase the probability this year, but also increase the probability more next year because we might be better aligned next year. There might be a little bit more clarity next year. So I don't think that it's like a clear, they have to go for it every single year. They are going to continue while the window is open, and the window is still open, and the team is in first place, shit division nonetheless, to continue trying to make the team improve. But is it every possible asset we need to get there? I don't know. Isn't January historically our worst month? It is. They've never had a January better than their December, and their December this year wasn't very good. Now, it started off pretty good here. I think it's 3-1-1, so that's good. So it's in the right direction. There's a shit ton of games left, so that's coming up, and there's some back-to-backs, and there's travel, and there's a lot that's going on before the Olympics. Plus, it's going to get goofy right before the Olympics because human nature is a real thing. That aside, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes through. I think if we're judging just January and saying, oh, wow, they're having a great January all of a sudden, that's where I'm going to say, no, San Jose, St. Louis, Columbus, Winnipeg, at least this year's Winnipeg, let's slow down a little bit. It looks a little bit more difficult coming up here, right? Like it's LA, it's Toronto, Nashville, who's playing a lot better. There's another good one behind them. Nashville, Philly, then Boston. There's some teams playing better hockey. So we'll see how that goes. That's all that I think that's all I have. Oh, I didn't tell you that this Periscope and all Periscopes are brought to you by the Jimmerson Law Firm. Jimmerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas' preeminent law firm specializing in high stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, seek out the Jimmerson Law Firm. So that's that. And they have presented this Periscope. They presented all Periscopes all season, and winning has mattered, especially against the Sharks. The most crazy stat. I can't get over it because I have it on here. 11 straight against San Jose again. It's the second time the Golden Knights have won 11 straight games against the Sharks. The Sharks have never won 2 straight games against Anaheim. 2. Not 3, 2. In the regular season. 2. I know they won. We're not going to talk about that. 2. The Golden Knights have won 11 straight games against San Jose twice. San Jose has never won 2 against Vegas. Ever. That's nuts. Like, that is, I'll just leave you on that. 7-2 again. Golden Knights have scored, what is it? 15% of their win, or 15% of their points, 19% of their wins, and 16% of their goals have been against San Jose. That is nuts. Crazy. That's all I got for tonight. All right, I'll take this one. Have they still not lost in regulation in the tank? Yes, that is correct. It's, I think, 16-0-3 now in the regular season. We have to always put that in there. It's one of 4 buildings that they've never lost in: Seattle, Calgary, and I can't remember the other one right now. Seattle, they lost outdoors up there, but have never lost in Climate Pledge. What a terrible name. Just name an Amazon Arena, damn it. Yeah. All right. So that's all I've got.